Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So let's just tell some stories today. I joined a gang at 10 years old. That was my first experience with running in the streets and with being a criminal. My mom and I had moved to an apartment projects in Maryland called the Halpine View Apartments. It is off Veers Mill and Rockville Pike. I don't remember. It wasn't Rockville Pike. It was off of Veers Mill and something. Halpine View Apartments were backed up by the Rock Creek Woods Apartments. There was a little tiny thin strip of trees in between the two. They had gangs in Rock Creek Woods that were enemies of ours, so we weren't allowed to go there. I was told right away when I moved to Halpine View, don't go down to Rock Creek Woods. Don't go down to the woods there. Those guys will beat you up. If they catch you down there, they're gonna fuck you up. I just wanted friends. You know, people ask, well, why would you join a gang? I was lonely. I had no friends. My mom and I moved around every year and a half or 2 years. I was always going to a new neighborhood, to a new school, that kind of thing. So the neighborhood kids embraced me. We rode bikes together. I had a Ross BMX bike. It was a little too big for me, but I could pedal it around. I mean, I was only 10 years old. This was probably 1981. We hung out in the basement of the apartment buildings. Each apartment building, it was a massive, sprawling apartment complex. It went on forever. And since we were little kids, it really felt like it was a whole world. Each building in the entire complex was the same, and they all were 4 stories. On the basement floor was a laundry room, a trash room, and a storage room. The storage room was basically a long room, long rectangular room with chicken wire and 2x4 divisions, small little, I would say 6x12 little storage units. Looked like little cages. So it was all framed out in wood. The walls were made of chicken wire. They each had, you could have had the ability to put a padlock on it. And people, tenants, each apartment had one, and you could put your crap in it. And people did. People put whatever they wanted. Their extra sofa, their extra TV, you know, whatever they wanted to put in storage. And there was one guy we found living down there. He was kind of an asshole. I guess his wife kicked him out, and he was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go sleep in the storage unit, put his bed down there, TV down there, and he would just hang out down there. But every building in the entire complex had a storage room. We found empty storage bins with the doors open without padlocks on it. And we turned those into our clubhouses. And we had several clubhouses all throughout the complex, depending on where we wanted to hang out. These guys all carried screwdrivers. See, the gang had 2 levels to it. It was called the Halpine Boys. There was the Halpine crew, they were just Halpine, H something. They graffitied it on the buildings, I forget. And then there was the Halpine baby gang, the Halpine Boys, the HBs. And that's what we would tag up, is HBs. The Halpine crew, the real gang, they were all much older, teenagers, young guys, and I only had an experience with them twice. Once was at a mandatory meeting. The baby gang wasn't usually called to the mandatory meeting, but this one was. And the leader of the group, who was a very charismatic individual, called a meeting at the basketball courts on the other side of the projects. So everybody, it was like a mass exodus. Kids were coming out of buildings. It was like more people than I could have ever imagined. I thought this was a small clique. It was massive. There was tons of kids of all ages, all at the basketball court. And this rather charismatic teenager, older teenager, rips his shirt off. He's got big muscles. He's sweating and he's yelling, talking about all kinds of stuff. I don't really remember the nature of what he was saying, but it was all gang politics, and this is the new rule, and this is what we're gonna do, and whatever. I was fascinated by that scene. I had been opened up to a whole new world. I had no idea. No idea this shit was even going on. Well, one of the hustles that I got turned on to, and it was my first experience with robbery. I was taught how to commit break-in and entry robberies. And what we would do is rob the storage units, because it was kind of open season. When we're down in the basements anyways. We were always down in the basements. We'd smoke in the trash room or in the laundry room. You know, we would do all kinds of stuff. But we would rob the storage units with our screwdrivers. We each had a screwdriver. It was mandatory to carry a screwdriver. I was given a long Phillips head screwdriver the day that I started hanging out with these guys. Use it as a weapon. We would practice throwing them into trees. And obviously, if there was ever any trouble, you were to take your screwdriver and stab people with it. But the screwdrivers had a dual purpose. It was to break into the storage bins, because they were all chicken wire walls that was fastened to the wood. So you could take the screwdriver, loop it through a couple of the holes, and then just rip it. And even though we were young, you could get a little bit of leverage on it. And once you got that shit ripped, you can just continue to rip it. And we would take a corner down at the bottom, rip open a wall, climb into the storage unit, steal whatever we could steal. And many times we would take that stuff and trade it or sell it to older kids. But one of the first things that I stole was a Hungry Hungry Hippos game. I sat out in front of my apartment building in the grass all afternoon playing that game by myself. It was one of my first items that I ripped off. I really enjoyed the fun times stealing with those kids. We had a blast doing it. And there was all kinds of, if you had toys that your parents put down there, well, those were our toys now. Your little bicycle, your Huffy, that's my Huffy now. And we spent a lot of time stealing shit from people and relocating it, trying to figure out how to quickly relocate those items back to our special clubhouses across the apartment, across the project. So we would spend a lot of time just playing this shuffle. Steal something from one building and take it 6 buildings away and stash it there. A neighbor kid of mine, this kid David, he was also my best friend. He was a year older than me, went to a different school, but lived right next door, a couple doors down. He was also in the gang, and there was a special spot in the woods that divided the 2 apartment projects, the Halpine View Apartments and Rock Creek Woods. There was a strip of woods that we used to go there and throw our screwdrivers into these trees. David was there with some girls, and maybe he was just trying to impress them. But it was the day that I quit being a HB, being a Halpine boy. I quit the gang. I get over to the little strip of woods, and I say, "Hey, David," and he responds to me in a snappy way, like he wasn't happy to see me at all. I don't know what I did. I liked David though. I thought he was really cool. I kind of looked up to him in a way, even though he was only a year older than me. I kind of looked up to him kind of like a role model. And he kept being mean to me, and I kept trying to just break the ice, trying to just kind of join the group, see what they're doing down there. "Oh, so you guys are throwing your screwdrivers, huh?" And David would say something like, "Ah, fuck you." So somehow I had gotten on the outs with these guys, and I was like, okay, I'll just see you later. So I go to walk away, and David comes running up behind me and pushes me as hard as he can, and I go flying face first into the grass, and that hurt. I mean, it was one of these just kind of awkward, I didn't see it coming. My neck goes flopping back. I go smashing face down onto the fucking grass. David was bigger than me. He goes walking off back to where the chicks were. The chicks were giggling, laughing. You know, kids are mean. But I didn't like that. I thought about it. 10 years old, I thought about stabbing David. I had the screwdriver. But I didn't want to get stabbed I was like, well, if he stabs me, then my mom's going to freak out. So I just left. And that was it. I never hung out on the playground again. I stayed in the apartment. My mom was kind of wondering, what's going on with you? How come you don't go outside no more? And I was just like, I don't really feel like it. We eventually moved a few months after that because we moved all the time. And we got to a new apartment. And I settled in with a new group of kids. But the Halpine Boys was my first experience. That's where I got the taste for robbery, a taste that would stay with me well into my 30s. Thanks for watching.